The ship called Odyssey's Call floated in the black silence of space. It was a small world of metal and light, carrying its human crew further from Earth than any had gone before. Outside the windows there was only the dark and the pinprick lights of distant stars. On the bridge, Commander Sue watched her screens. Her face was calm, but her mind was always working. She was in charge of the ship and the people on it. Every decision was hers. It was a heavy job, and she took it very seriously. She looked at the star map, a web of light on her screen. They were in a place no human had ever been. It was empty and quiet. In another part of the ship, a young man named Jin sat in a different kind of silence. His room was filled with the glow of computer screens. Wires and speakers were everywhere. Jin was a listener. His job was to study sounds from space. For months, there had been only the natural noise of the universe, the static of distant stars, the whisper of cosmic dust. Then a new sound came. It was not like the others. It was a pattern, a soft series of chimes like glass bells ringing in a gentle wind. The sound repeated over and over. It was a message. Jin had found it. He listened to it for days, his heart beating fast. He did not understand the sounds, but he felt something from them. They felt sad. They felt lonely. He worked with his computers, trying to find a meaning. He believed the message was a call from someone who did not want to be alone. He brought his discovery to Commander Sue. "Commander," he said, his voice full of excitement. "It's a signal. A real one. It's not random." "It's music." Sue listened to the recording. The soft chimes filled the quiet bridge. She looked at the data on Jin's screen. It was a clear, repeating pattern. "It is a signal," she agreed. Her voice was more careful than his. "But what does it mean? Is it a warning? A greeting?" "I don't think it's a warning," Jin said. "It feels gentle. It feels like a hello." Another person joined them on the bridge. It was Juan, the ship's chief engineer. He was a practical man. He fixed things. He made sure the ship kept flying. He heard the chimes and crossed his arms. "Sounds pretty," Juan said. "But a pretty sound from the dark is not always a friendly one. We should be careful." "We will be careful," Sue said. "But we have a mission. If this is first contact, we cannot ignore it." Jin worked for many more days. He used all his skill and all the ship's computers. The message was not a language of words. It was a language of feeling. The computers helped him see that the chimes were a map. They were a set of numbers that pointed to a location, a star system not far from their current position. He showed his findings to Sue. "They are inviting us," Jin said. "They are sending a location. They want us to come." Sue looked at the star chart. The location was close. A short jump for their ship. She looked at Jin's hopeful face. She thought about Juan's warning. The safety of her crew was her first job. But discovery was their reason for being here. "We will go," she decided. "But we go carefully. Shields up. Weapons on standby. We watch and we listen before we do anything else." The Odyssey's Call moved through space. The stars outside the window stretched into lines of light. Then everything was calm again. They arrived at the new star system. A planet hung in the view, a blue and green marble, and in orbit around it was a ship. It was not like their ship. The Odyssey's Call was made of hard angles and metal plates. This ship was smooth. It had curves like a seashell. It looked organic, as if it had grown, not been built. It glowed with a soft white light. Jin, Sue, and Juan stood on the bridge looking at it. "It's beautiful," Jin whispered. "It's strange," Juan said. "I don't see any engines. No weapon ports. It just floats." "Send the greeting," Sue commanded. "Use the same chimes they sent us." Jin sent the signal. The sound of the gentle chimes went out from their ship towards the strange vessel. For a moment there was nothing. Then a response came. The same chimes, but in a different pattern. It felt like an answer. A welcome. A new image appeared on their main screen. It was a face. The being had smooth gray skin. Its head was large. Its eyes were very big and dark, like pools of water. There was no hair. Its mouth was small. The face looked gentle, but the eyes held a deep, deep sadness. The being made the chiming sounds again. Jin's computer worked fast. Words began to appear on the screen below the creature's face. The computer was translating. "We hear you," the word said. "We are the Cathar. We are glad you are here. We have been alone for a long time." Jin felt a lump in his throat. He had been right. "We are humans," Sue said, speaking for the ship. "We come from a world called Earth. We are peaceful. We are also peaceful, the translation came. Our home is lost to us. We travel. We look for others. We look for friends. The story unfolded over the next hours. The Cathar spoke of a great disaster that destroyed their world. They were the last of their kind, living on this ancient ship wandering the galaxy. They shared images of their lost home, beautiful cities of crystal and light. They shared their art, which was full of soft shapes and calm colors. They shared their music, which was the sad, beautiful chiming. Jin was completely captivated. This was everything he had dreamed of. A wise, gentle species full of art and music looking for connection. Juan was not captivated. He studied the data from the Cathar ship. His instruments could not scan it deeply. The hull blocked their sensors. He could not see how the ship worked. He could not see how many Cathar were inside. They are hiding something, he said to Sue in a private meeting. Or they are protecting themselves, Sue replied. We would do the same. Their story checks out. Their ship is old. Their technology is different, but it does not look dangerous. They say they are peaceful, Juan said. But why can't I see inside their ship? Why is their power source a mystery? Peace is not a secret. On the screen, the Cathar made a new request. The translator formed the words, Your ship is strong. Your people are many. We are few. We are tired.
Can we come with you?
Can we see your world? We only wish to share what we know. We wish to not be alone anymore. Jin looked at Sue, his eyes full of hope. Commander, this is a historic moment. We can bring them home. We can show them friendship. Sue felt the weight of the decision. She looked at the sad face of the Cathar on her screen. She listened to the gentle music. She thought of the glory of being the commander who brought a new species to Earth in peace. Juan's warnings felt small next to such a big opportunity. She made her choice. She opened a channel to the Cathar ship. People of Cathar, she said, her voice clear and official. On behalf of humanity, we accept your request. We would be honored to escort you to our home planet, Earth. We invite you in. On the screen, the large dark eyes of the Cathar seemed to get deeper. A soft chime, which the translator did not need to translate, sounded like a sigh of relief. Thank you, the words appeared. We accept your kind invitation. We will follow you. The connection ended. The screen went back to showing the beautiful curved ship against the stars. Jin was smiling. He felt like he had just done the most important thing in his life. Juan was not smiling. He looked out the window at the Cathar vessel. It looked less like a seashell to him now and more like a closed fist. The Odyssey's call turned towards home. The Cathar ship followed silently, a graceful, glowing shadow. They began the long journey back to Earth, carrying their new friends. The humans on the ship felt proud and happy. They had reached out into the darkness and found a friend. They did not know they were wrong. They did not know they were bringing a shadow home. The cosmos had been watching humanity, and it had decided to send a menace. And humanity, with a hopeful heart, had invited it in. The journey back to Earth was a long one. The two ships, the human Odyssey's call and the beautiful Cathar vessel, flew side by side through the empty space. On the human ship, the mood was excited. The crew felt like heroes. They had done a great thing. They had found intelligent life and were bringing it home in peace. Jin spent most of his time talking to the Cathar. He learned more of their chiming language. He learned about their history, their art, and their philosophy. They called it unity in silence. It meant that true peace came from being together and being quiet. They said they had given up violence long, long ago. They had no weapons. They only had knowledge. Jin believed every word. He shared human stories with them. He told them about Earth's oceans and mountains. He played them human music. The Cathar always listened politely. They made soft chiming sounds that Jin thought were appreciation. But when Jin showed them human history, something changed. He showed them a database about the Great Pyramids of Egypt. The Cathar were mildly interested. Then he showed them a database about World War II. They became very, very interested. Their large, dark eyes focused on the screen. They asked many questions. They wanted to know about the strategies. They wanted to know about the weapons. They asked about the number of people who died. Jin felt a little uncomfortable. This is a sad part of our history, he explained. We fight too much. It is our greatest shame, the Cathar chimed softly. The translator wrote, it is not shame. It is data. It shows how you solve problems. It is important to understand. Jin did not know what to say. He changed the subject back to art. The Cathar slowly lost interest. Later, Jin was eating with Commander Sue and Juan. He told them about the Cathar's interest in human wars. Juan put down his fork. "I told you," he said to Sue. "They are not interested in our music. They are interested in our battles." Sue thought for a moment. "They are a species that has never known war, Jin. Perhaps they are horrified. Perhaps they are studying our flaws to make sure they do not make us angry." "But it didn't feel like horror," Jin said. "It felt like study, like a student learning for a test. Or a soldier learning about his enemy," Juan added. Sue shook her head. "We must not assume the worst. We invited them. We must trust them until we have a real reason not to." Juan did not look convinced. He went back to his engine room. He had his own worries. The Cathar had given the humans a gift before they left. It was a small, glowing crystal. They said it was a communication device. It would let them talk to the Cathar ship more clearly. Juan had taken the crystal to his lab. He scanned it. His tools could not see inside it. It was a beautiful, perfect mystery. He did not like mysteries on his ship. He put the crystal in a sealed box. He told Sue they should not use it. But the order came from Earth. The leaders on Earth were thrilled about the Cathar. They said to use the gift. They said to show trust. So the crystal was connected to the ship's main communication system. Juan watched it carefully. For days, nothing happened. The crystal just glowed. But Juan noticed something strange. The ship's computer was running a little slower. It was a tiny change. No one else would notice. But Juan noticed he started running secret tests. He built a separate, small computer that was not connected to the ship's main system. He used it to watch the main system. He saw tiny, strange packets of data moving through the ship's network. They were hiding in normal information. They were copying files. They were looking at everything: maps, power grids, communication logs. The data packets were coming from the Cathar crystal. Finally, the ships arrived at Earth. It was a day of global celebration. News cameras showed the beautiful Cathar ship descending from the sky. It landed gently in a special port built for it. The whole world watched. The Cathar came out. They were slender and graceful. Their large, sad eyes looked at the crowds. They made their soft, chiming sounds. The people of Earth fell in love with them immediately. They were everything people hoped aliens would be: wise, gentle, and beautiful. Jin was a hero. He was on television. He gave speeches. He was the human who had first understood them. He stood next to the Cathar ambassadors, smiling for the cameras. The Cathar were given a great welcome. They were given tours of cities. They were given access to the global data network. The leaders of Earth said, "We have nothing to hide from our new friends." So the Cathar could look at almost any computer system on the planet. Public records, science databases, traffic systems, and power grids were all open to them. The Cathar gave more gifts. They gave humans small, powerful energy cells. They said these cells could power a whole city for a year with no pollution. The human scientists were amazed. They did not fully understand how the cells worked, but they started using them anyway. They also gave advanced medical scanners. The scanners could find any sickness in a person's body. They could cure many diseases. Hospitals all over the world began to use them. People who were sick for years became healthy. It was a miracle. Humanity was grateful. They trusted the Cathar completely, but a few people were worried. Juan was one of them. He was now working on Earth, helping with the new Cathar technology. He took one of the energy cells to his lab. He tried to take it apart. It was impossible. It was a sealed unit. He tried to scan it. His scan showed nothing. He went to one of the hospitals. He asked to see a medical scanner. The doctors were happy to show him. They showed him how it made a sick child healthy. Juan watched the machine work. It was magic, but then he asked, "What is it doing?" "How does it work?" The doctor shrugged. "We don't know. But it works. That is what matters." Juan used a small device from his pocket. It was his separate computer. He held it near the medical scanner. The device showed a strange reading. The scanner was not just looking at the child's body. It was sending a very faint signal. A signal that was not medical. It was a data signal. Juan felt a cold fear. He went to see Commander Sue. She was now an important leader in the First Contact program. Her office was in a tall building with a view of the Cathar ship. Juan, she said, it is good to see you. Amazing, isn't it? They are curing our people. Juan nodded. Maybe, but I found something. He showed her the data from his device. The medical scanners are not just scanners. They are sending out a signal. I saw the same thing with the energy cells, and with their communication crystal on our ship. Sue looked at the data. She understood technology. She saw the strange signal. What is it? She asked. I don't know, Juan said. But it is in every gift they have given us. It is all over our planet now, in our power systems, in our hospitals. It is like a net. They are throwing a net over the whole Earth. Sue looked out her window at the Cathar ship. It sat there, silent and beautiful. It was hard to believe it was a threat. Jin speaks with them every day, she said. He says they only talk about peace and sharing knowledge. Jin sees what he wants to see, Juan replied. He believes in their sadness. I believe in data, and the data is screaming. Just then Jin walked into the office. He was smiling. You will not believe it, he said. The Cathar have just given us the plans for a new kind of computer. It is 1,000 times faster than anything we have. They are so generous. Juan and Sue looked at each other. The fear in Juan's eyes was clear. Sue's face became serious. Jin, Sue said, sit down. We need to talk. Jin sat down, his smile fading as he saw the serious looks on their faces. The happy feeling in the room was gone. What's wrong? He asked. Juan pointed to the data on his small screen. This is what's wrong. Their gifts are not just gifts. They are sending a signal. A secret signal. It is going through our power lines, our communication networks, even our hospitals. They are mapping our entire planet. Jin shook his head. He could not believe it. No, that's impossible. You are misunderstanding their technology. It is just different from ours. It seems strange because we don't understand it. That is exactly what they want us to think, Juan said, his voice tight. While we are amazed by their magic, they are learning everything about us. They know where every power plant is. They know how our defenses work. They know everything. Commander Sue looked from Juan to Jin. She trusted them both. One saw with his heart. The other saw with his tools. She had to make a choice. Jin, she said, I need you to do something for me. The next time you talk to the Cathar, I want you to ask them a direct question. Ask them why their medical scanners send a non-medical data signal. Watch how they react. Jin felt uncomfortable. He did not want to accuse his friends, but Sue was his commander. He agreed. The next day, he met with the Cathar ambassador in the communication room. The ambassador was as calm and gentle as always. Its large dark eyes were peaceful. Jin spoke in the chiming language. He asked about their art. He asked about music. Then he took a deep breath. Your medical scanners are wonderful, he said. But we have detected a signal from them. It is not a medical signal. Can you explain what it is for? For a fraction of a second, the Cathar was completely still. It was so fast, Jin almost missed it. Then it chimed softly. The translator wrote, It is a diagnostic signal. It ensures the scanner is working in harmony with your human biology. It is for safety. It was a good answer. A logical answer. But Jin remembered that moment of stillness. It was not the reaction of a friend explaining a simple thing. It was the reaction of someone who was caught. He reported back to Sue and Juan. They said it is a diagnostic signal, Jin told them, for safety. Juan laughed, but it was not a happy sound. A diagnostic signal that copies files from the hospital's computer? I have tracked it. It is collecting data, not medical data, structural data, maps of the buildings, power schedules. Later that night, a strange thing happened all over the world. For 3 hours, the power went out in all of North America. Planes could not fly. Traffic lights did not work. People were stuck in elevators. The leaders of the world said it was a major software glitch. A once-in-a-lifetime accident. Juan knew it was not an accident. He had been watching the energy cells the Cathar had given them. Just before the power went out, he saw a massive, strange data packet move through the power grid. It came from one of the Cathar energy cells. The packet acted like a key, turning off the systems. He worked all night. He used his separate computer, the one not connected to any network. He found the pattern. The Cathar signals were not just observing. They were creating a hidden control system inside the human world. A back door. He went to Sue's apartment. It was very late. He showed her his proof. Look, he said, his eyes red from lack of sleep. This is a map of the world's communication hubs. See these red dots? Those are the places where their signal has full control. They can turn them off whenever they want. This is not a misunderstanding. This is an invasion, a silent one. Sue looked at the map. The red dots were everywhere. They were in power plants, water systems, airports, and military bases. The Cathar had not fired a single shot. They did not need to. They had been invited to build the off switch for the entire human civilization. We have to tell someone, Sue whispered, her face pale. Who? Juan asked. The world leaders love them. They think the Cathar are saviors. If we show them this, they will say we are crazy. They will say we are afraid of progress. We have to try, Sue said. They tried. They requested an emergency meeting with the Global Security Council. They presented Juan's data. The leaders in the room listened politely, but then they dismissed it. You are tired, one leader said. The pressure of first contact is great. This is just a technical issue. We will have our scientists look at it. Another leader smiled. The Cathar are curing cancer. They are giving us free energy. And you worry about a strange signal? This is fear of the unknown. They were asked to leave the meeting. They were told to take a vacation, to rest. As they walked out of the tall government building, Jin was waiting for them. He had heard about the meeting. Is it true? Jin asked. His voice was shaky. Are they really what you say they are? Juan did not say anything. He just showed Jin the data on his screen. The map of control, the evidence of the secret network. Jin looked at it. He thought about the Cathar's sadness. He thought about their interest in human wars. He thought about the moment the ambassador froze when asked about the signal. The beautiful dream in his heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. He had been a fool. His hope had blinded him. I invited them in, he said, his voice full of horror. I told Sue they were peaceful. This is not your fault, Jin, Sue said. They fooled all of us, but what do we do now? Jin asked. No one will listen. We do what we can, Juan said. We go back to my lab. We find a way to fight this signal. We find a way to warn people. They went to Juan's lab. It was a messy room full of wires and computers. It was the one place Juan trusted. He had built its systems himself. They were not connected to the global network. They started to work. They were 3 people against a silent enemy that had wrapped itself around the whole world. It felt hopeless. Then the lights in the lab flickered. The computer screens went black for a second. A low hum filled the air. Juan looked at his main console. A message was flashing on every screen in the building. It was not a human message. The words were cold and simple. The language was the same one the Cathar used, but the gentle chimes were gone. This was a text written in a harsh, bright font. The assessment is complete. The resources are sufficient. The integration will now begin. Outside the window, they could see the city lights. One by one, the lights started to go out. First the street lights, then the buildings. A wave of darkness moved across the city. In the distance, they heard the sound of car crashes as traffic lights died. They heard people screaming in the sudden quiet. The Cathar ship, sitting silently in its port, began to change. The smooth, beautiful shell of the ship started to open. Panels slid back. Inside, there was not peaceful light. There were hard metallic structures, shapes that looked like weapons. The gentle mask was off. The truth was here. The trap had been sprung and they were all inside it. The world fell apart in silence. There were no loud explosions. There was no roar of invading armies. There was only the quiet sound of machines turning off. In Juan's lab, the 3 of them watched the city go dark. The screams from the streets were faint, but they were terrible to hear. The normal hum of the city was gone, replaced by a strange, frightening quiet. Then new sounds started. High-pitched whines came from the direction of the Cathar ship. Beams of soft green light shot out from the opened panels of the vessel. Where the green light touched buildings, the buildings did not explode. Instead, they seemed to melt. The metal and glass softened and sagged like wet paper. The light was a weapon that unmade things. People ran in the streets, confused and scared. Then, the medical scanners in the hospitals, the very machines that had been healing people, began to emit a low pulse. A wave of energy moved through the buildings. It did not hurt the buildings. It hit the people. Everyone touched by the pulse instantly fell into a deep, unnatural sleep. They collapsed where they stood, in streets and cars, in their homes. The city was being put to sleep. We have to go, Sue said. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking. Now, Juan was already moving. He grabbed a bag and started putting his special equipment inside. His separate computer. Some tools, wires, where can we go? Jin asked. He was in shock, his face white. They are everywhere. Their signal is in everything. Their signal is in everything connected to their network, Juan corrected, slinging the bag over his shoulder. But not everything is. Come on. He led them out of the lab and into a dark hallway. The emergency lights were on, casting long, scary shadows. They ran down the stairs because the elevators were dead. They reached the underground parking garage. Cars were stopped everywhere, their drivers asleep at the wheel. Juan went to an old boxy vehicle. It was not a fancy car. It was a utility vehicle from the Deep Space program. It was built for rough conditions, this one, he said. It has a simple engine. No computer. No connection to any network. It is just metal and mechanics. They got in. Juan started the engine. It coughed to life. He drove carefully through the chaos of the garage, around the sleeping people and the stopped cars. He drove up the ramp and out into the dark city. The scene was like a nightmare. The city was black and silent except for the occasional green beam from the Cathar ship. People lay on the ground sleeping. It was as if a spell had been cast on the whole world. Juan drove without headlights. He did not want to be seen. He had a plan. The old deep-sea communication center, he said to Sue. It is built into a mountain. It is designed to survive a war. Its most important systems are not wireless. They are connected by old physical cables under the ocean, hard lines. The Cathar might not control those, but how do we get in? Sue asked. I have codes, Juan said. From my old work? I helped build the backup power there. They drove for hours, leaving the city behind. They saw more terrible things. A passenger plane had crashed into a field, a silent fire burning. Whole towns were dark and still. The Cathar were efficient. They did not need to fight humanity. They just turned off our world and put us to sleep. Finally, they reached the mountain. Juan drove on a small hidden road. He stopped in front of a large metal door set into the rock. It looked like a bunker. They got out of the car. Juan went to a keypad next to the door. It had no power. He pried the cover off with a tool. Inside were old-fashioned wires. He touched two of them together. A spark jumped. The keypad lit up. It has its own power deep underground, Juan explained. He typed a long code. With a heavy groan, the giant metal door began to slide open. They went inside. The door closed behind them. They were in a concrete tunnel with lights on the ceiling. The air was cold and still. They walked for a long time, deep into the mountain. They reached a control room. It was filled with old computers and large screens. It was dusty, but it felt safe. It was a place from a time before the world became connected and weak. Juan went to the main console. He pressed buttons. The screens flickered to life. This is Senator McMurdo, a voice said from a speaker. Identify yourself, Sue leaned into the microphone. This is Commander Sue, formerly of the Odyssey's call. Authorization code Sierra 79er Gamma. There was a pause. Identity confirmed, Commander. We are glad to hear a friendly voice. The situation is global. All major networks are down. We are running on isolated systems here. We know, Sue said. The Cathar are the cause. They have built a secret control system into our technology. They are disabling us. We suspected, the voice from McMurdo replied. Our deep space array is still operational. It is hardwired. What are your orders? Jin, who had been quiet the whole time, spoke. His voice was different now. The shock was gone. It was replaced by a cold, clear anger. We can't fight their technology, Jin said. They are too advanced. If we try to shoot them, they will just turn off our weapons. We have to fight them in a way they do not understand. How? Juan asked. We used their own plan against them, Jin said. They used our trust. They used our networks. We will use their arrogance, he pointed to the deep space array. They think they have won. They think we are just a simple, weak species they have easily captured. They do not know that we have places like this. They do not know that we can still talk to the galaxy. So we ask for help? Sue asked. No, Jin said. There is no help to ask for. We send a warning. Not for us. For everyone else. He looked at them, his eyes sharp. The galaxy feared the Cathar. That is why they were alone. That is why they were sad. They are a disease. They prey on kind species. We will tell the galaxy what they are. We will tell everyone how they operate. We will expose their tricks. Their greatest weapon is secrecy. We will take that away. Juan understood. A slow smile spread across his face. We turn their victory into a lesson, a warning for the next species they try to trick. Exactly, Jin said. We broadcast everything. Juan's data, their methods, their true nature. We send it out as far as we can. We make sure the next time the Cathar send their gentle chimes, someone will be ready. Sue nodded. It was a desperate plan, but it was the only one they had. It was not a plan of weapons. It was a plan of truth. Do it, she said. Juan and Jin got to work. Juan connected his separate computer to the deep space array. He uploaded all his data, the secret signals, the map of control, the proof of the betrayal. Jin sat down at another console. He began to write the message. He would write it in the Cathar's own chiming language, but he would not fill it with gentle greetings. He would fill it with a human story of trust and betrayal. He would fill it with a warning. The galaxy had menaced humanity because we were naive. We would show them that our greatest strength was not our technology. It was our ability to learn from our mistakes, and our stubborn need to warn others of the danger, even as the darkness closed in. The control room deep inside the mountain was silent except for the hum of the old machines. The air was cold and smelled of dust and metal. On the large screens, data scrolled by. It was Juan's proof. The secret signals from the energy cells, the hidden commands in the medical scanners, the map of the world showing how the Cathar had built a cage around the whole planet. Jin worked at his console. His fingers moved quickly over the keyboard. He was not writing in English or Korean. He was writing in the soft, chiming language of the Cathar, but the words were not gentle or sad. They were sharp and clear. They were a warning. He wrote the story of the Odyssey's call. He wrote about hearing the beautiful chimes in the dark. He wrote about the hope he felt. He described the Cathar's sad eyes and their story of a lost home. He wrote about the trust humanity gave them, the open doors, the shared knowledge. Then he wrote about the betrayal. He described the secret signals, the way they studied human wars, the moment the power went out, the way their ship opened to reveal weapons. He described the green beams that melted buildings and the pulse that put millions to sleep. He explained that the Cathar were not victims. They were hunters. Their sadness was a trap for kind species. He finished the message. He looked at Sue and Juan. It is ready, he said. Juan nodded. His part was ready too. All the data was prepared. The proof was attached to Jin's story. It was a package of truth. Sue took a deep breath. She looked at the main screen which showed the status of the deep space array. The giant dish, buried in another part of the mountain, was pointed at the stars. Send it, she said. Juan pressed a button. A wave of energy, carrying Jin's message and Juan's data, shot out from the earth. It moved at the speed of light, racing away from the silent, sleeping planet. It moved past the moon. It moved past Mars. It went out into the deep black space between the stars. It was a whisper, a desperate shout into the void, a message in a bottle thrown into a cosmic ocean. They did not know if anyone would hear it. They did not know if it would work. All they could do was wait. Back in the city, the Cathar continued their work. Their ships moved through the skies, putting more people to sleep. They did not seem to be in a hurry. They were methodical. They were sure of their victory, but then something changed. One of the Cathar ships hovering over a quiet city suddenly stopped. It turned its weapons away from the ground. It pointed them at the sky. Another ship did the same, then another. Deep in the mountain, an alarm beeped on Juan's console. They detected it, Juan said, his eyes on the screen. They felt the broadcast. They know what we did. On a different screen, they saw a live view from a hidden camera on the surface. It showed the Cathar mothership. Its beautiful shell was now fully open, showing a complex, ugly interior of weapons and antennas. The ship was turning. It was no longer interested in the sleeping city below. It was pointing towards the mountain. Towards them. They are coming here, Sue said. We have to buy more time for the signal, Jin said. The longer it broadcasts, the farther it goes. Juan worked furiously. I can reroute power, make the signal stronger, but they will be here soon. The door will not hold them forever. The giant metal door at the entrance of the tunnel was strong, but it was not made to fight Cathar technology. They all knew it. The ground shook. A distant boom echoed through the tunnels. Dust fell from the ceiling. They are here, Sue said. The lights in the control room flickered. The screens wavered. Juan looked at his console. The signal is still going. It is almost done. We just need a few more minutes. Another louder boom shook the mountain. The sound of tearing metal screamed from the tunnel entrance. The Cathar were cutting through the door. Sue stood up. She walked to a metal cabinet on the wall. She opened it. Inside were a few old-fashioned rifles. They were from the time the base was built. They were simple weapons. No electronics. Just metal and gunpowder. She handed one to Juan. She handed one to Jin. Jin looked at the heavy, cold weapon in his hands. He had never held a gun before. He hated violence. But now he understood. This was not about violence. This was about buying time for the truth. The roaring sound from the tunnel got louder. The Cathar were through the door. They were inside the tunnel. Su Juan and Jin stood near the control room entrance. They could hear strange clicking sounds coming from the tunnel. The sounds of Cathar feet on the concrete floor. Then they saw them. Two Cathar walked into the light. They were not gentle now. Their large eyes were cold and empty. They held devices that glowed with the same green light as their weapons. The Cathar saw the humans. They raised their devices. Sue did not hesitate. "For Earth," she whispered. She fired her rifle. The sound was incredibly loud in the small space. The bullet hit one of the Cathar in the chest. The creature stumbled back. It did not scream. It made a harsh clicking sound. Green liquid seeped from the wound. The Cathar were not invincible. The other Cathar fired its weapon. A beam of green light hit the wall next to Sue, melting a hole in the metal. Juan fired his rifle. He missed. The clicking from the tunnel grew louder. More were coming. Jin stood his ground. He aimed his rifle, his hands shaking. He thought of the gentle chimes. He thought of the betrayal. He pulled the trigger. The gun kicked in his hands. The bullet hit the second Cathar in the head. It fell to the ground and did not move. But it was too late. 3 more Cathar stepped into the room. Their weapons were raised. Suddenly, the humming in the control room changed. A single loud beep came from Juan's console. "The broadcast is complete," Juan yelled. "The message is away. It's gone." Sue smiled. It was a small, sad smile. They had done it.